No, but here's the terrible thing. They're actually coming out and saying, you got to pay for your board and lodging in the prison. Have you heard about that one?
Yeah, I think they're shuffling back from that because it'll really catch them out. It'll backfire before the election because it's so obviously mean and cruel and petty and vicious that it doesn't make them look rather ungentlemanly. But I'll tell you something else that makes them look very ungentlemanly, although they want to do it if they can get away with it, but they're a bit shafted at the moment, is unpaid carers. Or living on allowance, and sometimes having to pay back when they've defrauded the DWP out of maybe £1 or £2, and they have to pay it all back. The deserving poor, the wicked, the evil, the sinful, the people that don't look at tractors on the internet because they haven't got an internet.
Or get a phone call at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Good morning. We've been kidnapped by a Brazilian friend. A good-looking friend.
Well,
good, dark. I mean, I don't want dark people living here, but I do like them visiting me at night.
we've got a mayoral election coming up. What's your? It's actually next week sometime, isn't it?
Well, next week, yeah, right. Remember to vote.
By the way, today's date is the 25th.
I think they're all the same. All the same.
Well,
except for Rupert Murdoch, because he controls my brain, so I'm not allowed to say that.
Well, do you know how many candidates they got this year?
I had that list that come through my door box 1 or 2 days ago, and yes, I had a look at and I noticed that everyone was against Sadiq Khan and his ULEZ, right? And the what was it? The Britain First said, this is a cesspit, Londonistan. And ULEZ is bad, whatever that is. I don't like it, cause the air's been polluted for a long time and it hasn't done me any harm.
Well, this mandate about ULEZ and the extension of the zone, congestion charge zone, wasn't that a mandate from the government, the Conservative government, that he has?
Oh, Johnson, yes, of course. But Johnson played green. But he's done all sorts of things in the National Theatre, writ large. He's been a fisherman, he's been a medical scientist, he's been a diplomat, he's been all sorts of wonderful things. A cyclist, I remember him with his cycle clips. Yes, he built those brilliant cycle tracks, lovely. Yes, yeah. But now it's all green crap.
Yeah. Whose bridge was it meant to be? Was it Boris Bridge? Was he trying to get the bridge built, didn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, bridge built. Oh, lovely. And what about the island? He was going to build an island in the Medway or something. Medway, going to build an island was going to have an island, killing all those sort of birds. Instead of London Airport.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, he was going to throw himself underneath the
bulldozer.
An aeroplane. Been run over. He got by an aeroplane. He was that courageous.
Heathrow Airport.
He's a courageous man.
And this brings
Winston Courage.
And this brings us right back to the mayoral election, because there was a Conservative candidate who said, what did he say? He said something about the green thing, that he would lie in front of the bulldozers, that they wouldn't be the extension to the, what's his second name?
Well, I think one.
Goldsmith?
I think yes. Oh, he was green at one time, wasn't he? He was green and racist. Was he green racist? Yes. Yes.
What was his policy about the airport and the noise?
He didn't like expansion, like airport expansion.
Yeah, didn't he say, like Boris, he was going to lie in front of the tractors and?
Well, yes. And on the day when it was pushed through, when the real establishment, not the anti not the anti-establishment establishment, the populist anti-establishment establishment, but the people who were the real establishment. And he I think he flew off to Afghanistan or something.
He couldn't be found.
He could be for the day.
Couldn't be found because he's meant to lie under a tractor or something.
Well, he got have a free air trip, air trip. He loves them, for the day. And yes, so he was going to maybe lie underneath a tank or something.
And talking about free air trips and free trips, we're not going to say about.
Or is he going to swim the channel? I don't know. Something courageous.
Right, I'm going to provoke you. Free air trips and free travel. Wasn't it Priti Patel that went to Israel? When Boris Johnson.
I think she wanted to. Well, no one heard about the Rwanda thing, but I think maybe quietly behind Theresa May's back, she went to there and have a chat, or maybe I don't know whether it's known or not. Who knows? But anyway, but I wanted to. My guess is maybe to talk about this Rwanda plan for the future. But the Israeli government was shafted by the Rwandan government, taken for a ride, because they sent their refugees there. I think they had got Africans who managed to get there, and then they deported them off to Rwanda, and then I think most of them disappeared. So it was a failure. The head of the government there, who's very libertarian, as we all know, and likes free speech, got a nice packet of money in his bank balance, and he's getting he's got Israeli money, getting British money. I wonder who he'll take for a ride next.
And talking about the.
And isn't it funny how even the Reform Party are against the Rwanda flights? They say it won't work. Isn't it a funny game they're all playing? So the establishment, anti-establishment, 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 establishment.
Well, Rwanda is in the headline, and it has been talked about, and they voted it through. But again, if they get to
remember, it is true. Gaza is less safe than Rwanda. So in a way, they're right. Rwanda is not a safe country, but it's safer than Gaza. It's probably safer than Ukraine. It's probably safer than lots of places in the world which aren't safe. It might be. Might be safer than Strangeways prison in Manchester. Who knows?
Do you know what's amazing is that the strike was allegedly from Israel to Iran, and no, it was Iran 300 missiles.
Oh, the Woki-Koki.
Right, and then Israel strike back, and it was like Israel go, I don't know who done it. And Iran is going, nothing happened. It's like two kids you catch fighting, isn't it? And you go, which one of you did what? They go, I don't know. I don't know. This is international worldwide, could bring us to the World War, Third World War, the real serious Third World War.
Well, you know, I think it was who was that playwright writer and who was in the First World War period, from Stratford East. She was very well known, and she had made
Dickensian. No.
Yeah, and she made a play. Oh, What a Lovely War.
Really? Okay, tell us more.
Yeah. She was a very famous playwright.
All right, tell us about the play. So What a Lovely War.
A Lovely War. I don't know much about it, but it was like it was a music. It was a musical, I think.
Let me just
take it
this way. Carry on. Tell them about the musical.
Well, I don't know too much about it, but I think it was. I think, and I might be wrong. It was about sort of making fun of the glamorization of war in general.
Okay. Well, all right, yeah, and
but really, there's a serious point underneath it that the world leaders see the world as a chessboard.
the world is a chess.
Property and war games, and yeah, they think it's all think it's all a big game.
You sure it's a chessboard or it's the Monopoly board?
It's probably more duopoly or oligopoly. I mean, it's a monopoly only for arms dealers because they're only interested in money. So for them, it's but for the people who are the people who run the world on behalf of the arms dealers, they're called presidents, prime ministers, dictators, generals, and old Uncle Tom Cobley and all. They're actually creating the mythical story of one country versus another country, one group of working class people versus another people who are meant to be on this, fight each other to the end for some property which they'll never own.
But back to the mayoral thing. Have you heard any policy from any one of the candidates that is relevant to you?
Well, I'm like I said, I like the Greens. I'm not saying they're wonderful, probably not, but I noticed in their leaflet it was the only one that didn't go into personal attacks and didn't become nasty, and was actually talking about a better environment.
You got leaflets through the door?
Yeah, everyone did.
I didn't.
I don't know. No, well, maybe, but some people didn't. Who knows? Some did, some didn't.
Yeah, I did.
Is that the small one? Maybe different boroughs.
Yeah.
I'm sure you will.
Well,
or maybe, who knows?
Maybe they figured out I'm not going to be voting, and I ain't going to be voting this time.
Well, I'm what? Huh? Hang on. Let me clean my ears.
I'm not a Khansman.
Yeah, that really depresses me. Okay, tell me why then. Who?
Nah, because he's just following through the same policies as before.
Well, I said as I said to one of these sort of lost, confused and mildly ignorant characters who said they're not going to vote, and I said, well, okay, on this analogy, right? If you're going to get a punch in the stomach or a brick on the head, what would you prefer? And I was told neither.
So, but you'll get one anyway.
Well, obviously the person I was talking to was more like is kind to have a conversation with a mouse. So it's not going to happen. But you know that what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And what I was trying to say in desperation.
The only difference is when it comes to voting is who are you going to choose to administer those things to you?
Look, a vote's only once every 4 years, and I do understand. I do on a deep level understand people who are that cynical that they won't vote. Yeah. But I'm not that cynical yet, because I've still got a few ideals left. I mean, you said you like Jeremy Corbyn, and I could be cynical and say, well, it's all the same. Because I heard one time there's I had one tradesman round one time who said to me that he'd lived in Camden or something, and Jeremy Corbyn's got a nice big house, and I thought, that's true, he doesn't live in a tent, and therefore he was horrible. But now
talking about voting, do you know you need photo ID to go to the polling booth now?
Yes, it's awful. Like they did under the southern states of the USA did to keep black people away under the poll tax times, Yeah,
but that was recently. That was recently with Donald Trump.
No, they're doing it again. They're probably doing it in many parts of the world.
That was recently with Donald Trump.
Yes, of course they are. They want people.
And he excluded the black vote.
Of course they want, and the poor vote.
Yeah.
The most thing is the poor vote. Forget about also poor whites, but poor people in general, poor whatever, poor human beings. And when it comes to the general election, right? And the poor people who voted for Brexit, a lot of them really regret it now. But the thing is that I think a lot of them are just depressed now.
Now, how many of them's got photo ID to vote in the next election, which is between now
of
and
course
the
not.
end of the year?
Well, they've been used. They've been had. Just like the Afghan interpreters have been had, isn't it?
Well,
Or the Iraqi or the Syrian Kurds who actually, gave their life fighting ISIS.
Well, that's
and were shafted.
well, that's
By Trump, used and spat out.
That's
So people are always being used and spat out.
now that's life and death. But
Yes.
for the voters of Brexit, it's just embarrassment.
No, it's no. Of course, I might be using some
with the
exaggeration
Afghan
metaphor.
thing. No,
but,
that's all right. Yeah,
But the
same,
mechanics of being
similar.
used is the same.
similar. Yeah, yes.
Right?
Yeah, I
and
agree.
people wonder why there's mental illness and
Yeah.
drug addiction and alcoholism.
Yeah.
Because people have been used, feel damaged. And that's the damage that you see. But you see, not looking at the if somebody said to me, I'm mentally ill, I say, well, who and what has damaged you?
Yeah.
Because obviously, I don't think a person was born that way.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not genetic, so it's social. So therefore, the person's been damaged. And the system, all systems, not just the system, but all systems, to different degrees and in different ways, damage people. They're damaging.
One of the most telling,
Capitalism, patriarchy.
one of the most poignant point and damaging, and that proves what you're saying, was Boris Johnson, as it was revealed afterwards during the COVID. He would stand up. I watch all these press conferences every day where he would stand up there with Chris Whitty and he said, washing your hands, you sing this song. Was it
Sing a song.
yeah, and 30 seconds or what have you, and you
The
can't
sun has got his head done.
right, and he said you can't go and see anybody, you can't have parties, you can't mingle, you can't
Yes.
go and see your granny dying in the old people's home. And as soon as he left the meeting,
A hero.
they went to a party. They just left the room and went straight into a party,
Prosecco
party,
party.
right? And
Do you remember his secretary, right? Who gave it away by having a big joke, being caught out by laughing about it.
yes,
And then put
she
the silly
was
people.
She was testing her response on camera, and they recorded it, and then they put it
Yeah.
out, and she was like, "Yeah, she got sacked."
I think that's going to make the difference in this local election and the general. I think that's it. I think lots of people who actually did what they were told are more horrified. I mean, I remember arguing with the anti-vaxxers at the time because I believed in the vaccination and medical science, and I thought I was responsible to do it. But now I look back and I think there was one thing they said about government cheating and wanting to control everybody, and that's the bit I agreed with, and I didn't know what to say anything about, and I had to agree with them on that. But I had to separate that from medical science and vaccinations.
I tell you,
But in a way, they've turned out to be right in certain ways. And now, because of people like Johnson and Trump and that, if there was another pandemic, there'd be lots of people who were pro-science who won't take a vaccination. It's a horrible effect. People have been cheated, and often people who have been cheated go to the other extreme,
and this is part of the foundation.
and
of
they become extremists.
yes,
Because they think, right, if my leader has cheated me, then the leader who's the enemy of my leader must be
A better
wonderful, must be a better friend. Yes, a better friend of me.
so extreme. Yeah, and this is the point about the.
So in other words, it's like, so they say that because I don't like Dracula, maybe I should be loyal to a werewolf instead.
But talking about the pandemic. Right?
Werewolf, yes.
So
Yes, there's a very good werewolf, not a Dracula, but a werewolf.
So talking about the pandemic, I lost my train of thought.
Yeah.
A lot of people realise, why am I going to work? 5 days a week, killing myself. What for? I'm going to be dead, right? And so,
but all the great reforms happened after great wars and big shocks and big disturbances. The welfare state, Winston Churchill lost the election, and then there was the welfare state, and you're in Bevan, created the welfare state and things like that, and the NHS after the Second World War. You know, I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but the one good thing about the Second World War was the NHS and the welfare state.
all right, now I could go down two paths there, because I want to stick to the people being deceived and having massive mental health problems.
Yeah.
Or Claire Starmer. If Claire Starmer takes over, he would not be able to solve.
You said Claire Starmer.
Claire
Starmer. How do you know what underwear he wears?
Claire or Claire?
Claire. Okay, right.
Right, yeah, Claire. Yeah, Sir Claire.
Yeah, Sir Claire.
Okay. CPS man.
Yeah.
Anyway, so when he takes over, my thing is this: he would not be able to solve the economic problems we have. I don't know about the social problems, right? The social problems with people will have people going mad. They're already going mad already, stabbing each other, shooting each other, police tasering them and all that kind of thing. But we started off by talking about the free market, and the reason why we got problems with the NHS, right, is because of the free market. There's a mechanism that is killing us all. The mechanism is called inflation. If we go back 20 years ago, everything was half the price. All right, let's take rent at the moment, right? Take electricity price, take cost of living, right? If we go back 10 years, 20, it was half the price. But because there is a economic mechanism in place, right, it will continue to rise. When care takes over, every year, everybody needs an increase in wage by at least 4%, because price, it's called a free market. What the free market does, I know you've got some money, I know you got money, so I'm gonna put it up, right? That guy ain't got the money, I know you've got the money, you'll be able to afford it, he can't afford it. Next year, I'm gonna put it up so much, you won't be able to afford it, he'll be able to afford it, you'll have to go on strike. Whether you're a train driver, tube driver, post office worker, even the police were complaining, right? Doctor, dentist, you go on strike because you need the money, because I'm the free marketeer, I've increased the price, he can afford it, you can't afford it. And that is why care cannot solve that problem, because the bill, if you watch out interest, compound interest growth, it goes up and up and up, right? And it reaches a point where under the 2% it takes longer.
I don't think shareholders, right, especially the very rich shareholder, I don't mean the one pound shareholders, you know, but I mean the people with massive shares. I think inflation's probably going to be good for them, but I can't prove it. I mean, I haven't read it.
Inflation is good for them because
I'm sure it's they're gonna be laughing.
Yeah, inflation is good because it's an increase in price, increase in stock price. Everything goes up, right? Oh, by the way, you see that little skirmish we had just now with Iran? The oil price is going up to about $90 per barrel, and the price hasn't reached the consumer.
So how come, even if the capitalists were rational and they think oil prices are going up, why not start looking into green energy? Not from the point of view of being environmentalist, an idealistic environmentalist, or from the point of view of saving the planet, or pollution, or damage to people's sort of lives and lungs and things like that. But actually, from the point of view of not being trapped, with this oil cycle. It's very strange. You see, not only are they so greedy, but they've now lost any form of rationality. Their greed is actually making them stupid. They do not understand anything. Even their own Adam Smith economics, they don't understand it. Or David Ricardo, they don't understand it. Why?
Without disagreeing,
they study it. They don't understand it.
Yeah, without disagreeing with my esteemed friend.
Yeah.
Graham here.
I like.
How can I say it? We're talking about people being deceived, right? And making believe the basic fundamental economics machine is based on petroleum. Name all forms of transport. Let's start by sea, right? So that's the oil tankers. Even though they're delivering oil tankers and they're delivering stuff from one A to B and what have you, what is their main source for the engine?
Oil.
Okay, so that's the ship. The next source, okay, the next source is what flies?
Aeroplanes.
What's the main source of fuel?
Oil, petrol.
Okay, on a personal basis now, to get from A to B, stick your hands out if you're rich enough. Taxi. If you're ordinary, the bus pulls in. What's their main?
Petrol. In fact, I remember reading a long time ago that in the 1920s, Los Angeles, well known for its sort of smog and motorways, at one time had one of the best public transport systems in the world. And it was bought up by the car companies, oil companies, Henry Ford, etc. Bought it up, ripped it up, smashed it up, destroyed it, and started building motorways like spaghetti junctions. And then it looks now that it's always been like that, and it always has to be like that, and that's all there is.
And you see why some people can't connect, because the infrastructure is based on petrol dollars, petroleum. But you get that from government. They got green taxes on everything, all the energies. They're telling people to go wind power, solar power, but the foundation still.
But telling somebody something doesn't mean actually doing it.
And so what have the government done towards this green thing?
I think they've done very little. I don't know, but I think so.
That is my exact point.
I think there's very little.
That is my exact point.
Because the oil companies are some of the biggest lobbyists, as well as weapons dealers. They're big lobbyists.
And talking about being
a huge lobby.
And talking about being shafted as not only a consumer because of the free market, but politically.
Well, there isn't a division between economics and politics, because I think it's called political economy, informally, and the name was divided to look like it's different things. I mean, it's just like, it's also, if you think about you think about what the culture, you can say that's not political. How can it not be? I mean, the whole social world that's made by people is based on everything except for maybe physics, right? As far as I know, is political, and it has to be. Economics has to be political, because it is something based on choice, and it isn't based on the laws of physics or arithmetic.
let me take you down a road.
It's choice.
I wonder if you're gonna believe me. I believe we're living in a false economical. The whole foundation of the economics, it's totally and utterly false. I'll give you an example. You can't afford to buy a house. Actually, also you can't afford to buy a car. The government were pushing for everybody to get these new electric vehicles, but people couldn't afford it. So you know what the government did, and you know what the government did for certain housing people. They said, we are going to give you a discount, or we are going to give you a grant in order for you to get that car or get that house, right? They haven't actually lowered the price. So if you're clever enough, you will get that grant or you'll get that discount, right? And you keep that economics going. Now, you're just in the middle about to afford it. The person above you can afford it. I'll say 50, I'll say up to about 50% of the people can't afford it. They're locked out of the economic cycle. That's why we have food banks, because people just can't make ends meet. And food banks is actually a subsidy indirectly from government.
Yes. In fact, I think in many places, one of the policies of the DWP is to send people to food banks. So it's become actually, officially or unofficially, probably unofficially, part of the market of the whole
economic system.
Yes,
right?
It's probably now part of the economic system,
because they know, and you've realised, a high percentage of people cannot afford normal day-to-day living. So indirectly, what's happened? They now begin to be subsidized.
Yeah.
Right, by the food banks.
Well, I think most people's, I don't know, but I should think most people's are doing 2 or 3 jobs, small part-time jobs, and they will need to be subsidized by universal credits or other top-ups or tax credits, which are now disappearing. So I think basically, yes, I think that it's a necessity for people to to work and on such low wages.
What about the child tax credit thing? You know how that works?
No,
I don't quite know. I'll do some research.
Okay.
Right. So if you got kids, you get money from the government, right? Now, so you can see indirectly, economically, people can't survive. So the government is subsidizing them. It's a false economy. People cannot actually survive in what the real economy is supposed to be. We've just reached a point where people have realized that the Gen Z, I remember what you said last time about why am I so fooled by them, but you'll explain.
Okay,
right? But anyway, but the point being, do you Gen Z generation cannot afford a house?
Of course, but then in the 1930s there was a Gen Z as well, because in the what's called the Roaring 20s, during an economic boom, because you know the world's economy has been full of booms and slumps, and you'd only need to read Das Kapital to understand that. That explains a lot about economics, but not capitalist economics. It's a Marxist explanation of economics, of the rate of tendency to fall, and it's made to sound very complicated.
And you know what I love?
It's just made to sound, people either don't know about it or they think it's very, very complicated, and it is not easy. But then again, nothing you study is easy, but it has an explanation of booms and slumps better than the so-called free market.
Do you know what I love about that period?
Adam Smith.
Was the Gatsby period.
Yes,
and then
think about also a very fantastic sort of musical, right? Called Cabaret.
Yeah.
That was the equivalent of that.
Life is a
cabaret, and the Roaring 20s in Berlin before the collapse. What was the 1930s?
Yeah.
The recession of the 1930s,
after the boom, then came the bust.
Yes, turning into.
And this is where Charlie Chaplin, and this is where Laurel and Hardy in black and white half of the shows they did was about during the Depression. You know, there was lovely things where.
But Charlie Chaplin, Laurel and Hardy were not only comedy. They were quite dark comedy. They were highly intellectual.
It was a reflection of what they were going through at the time.
If Charlie Chaplin's neutral comedy was so harmless to the establishment, how come he was so prey to these McCarthy witch hunts?
Well, okay.
Because if he was harmless,
Right.
would he be witch hunted like that?
You told me about something earlier on today, but I'll go back to Charlie Chaplin. And one of the they constantly play, or the one I could remember, is that he's actually in a restaurant and he hasn't got any money, so he'll bend over and take the guy's wallet in order to pay and what have you. In the end, he got caught out. He had to go and thing the dishes, and that was during the Depression at the time, you know. And then what happened straight after the Depression at the time? We went to the Second World War.
Exactly.
Where everybody's mind.
And now that's what's frightening, is the talk about war now from above, not from below, from above.
But then again,
it's scary.
Thinking about it, if you got they had what they call it, the soup kitchen. They showed all these lines of people. In fact, in Charlie Chaplin's thing, there would be a sketch where they're actually standing in line. They will tap the guy in order to get to the front.
This was the era of the Jarrow marches in England. The march of the homeless and unemployed from Jarrow in is it Northumberland? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
To London.
Yeah.
I mean, these things have all been wiped out. They're all meant to be forgotten.
Well, no, because we are remembering it. And
yes, we're minority. Remember. 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 You can't buy the Morning Star or the Socialist Worker in every little hamlet, but you can buy the Sun and the Daily Mail and the Telegraph, and there is information, alternative information to be had, but it's very rare, very few and far between. And the majority of information is misinformation from top to bottom by the establishment. In fact, a lot of this so-called anti-establishmentism, the official anti-establishmentism, like Farageism, is actually the establishment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who?
I mean, for instance, Farage, anti-establishment, has a great fetish to join Coots Bank, the bank.
Why?
That's not. He doesn't have a fetish to go into a food bank, because if he did, he'd be abused by Lee Anderson.
50p Anderson.
30 pence.
Oh, 30 pence.
No, okay, with inflation.
Yeah, with inflation.
50 pence. I'll pay 50 pence. Unless you're in Yorkshire, maybe the 20 pence.
Oh, what about this North-South divide? And the HS2. Right, the first thing that Richie Sunak did with the HS2 is he cancelled it. There's like a big building site in Houston. I don't know, you see, where all of the big construction thing has been taken away. Just like flat land, sort of bare, with a couple of
Well, the thing is, I don't know what to say about that. I mean, train building is a good thing. It might just have been an anti-train thing, because really an anti-infrastructure thing, because and pro-car. It might have been part of the pro-car policy.
That's the point I was going to make.
Build more cars.
During lockdown, all of a sudden, everybody was given certain people was given an extra £1,000, right? That only ended like a couple of months ago, right? Theresa May always used to say to Jeremy Corbyn, where is this magic money tree, right? And where did they get the money to pay everybody, right? This magic money tree. Where did they get the money for the infrastructure?
Printing money.
They call it, the word will come.
There must be a word.
Yeah, there's the word they call it.
The words that they use. Yeah.
Right, so they can do that for the infrastructure, right? And what's the basic fuel that is used for those high-speed trains?
Petrol. unfortunately.
Right.
I don't know why they can't because I don't know why they can't have solar panels.
Actually, someone has to pay, right? And I think this thing about people having solar panels on the roof, I think is a big con. The electricity people don't want you to be independent of them. They want you to be always paying, right? So this thing about having solar panels on the roof. Do you know anybody who's actually made a profit from having solar panels on their roof?
No.
Right. And by the way, how much does it cost?
Well, I don't want to I don't want to be churlish and criticize people for individuals for trying to be idealistic or trying to sort out their rubbish and things like that, because I don't want to be the Daily Mail curmudgeon and say, well, all the rubbish, because somebody is trying. But of course these people are being shafted by the very people who are supposedly patting them on the back individually, but are actually won't allow such a thing to happen on a large scale.
All right, let me just touch on...
There is no large scale. There are no large scale.
All right, let me touch on the last subject and we'll conclude,
solar
because
farms.
we're getting wet out here in Finsbury Park. The temperature's also cold as well.
Yeah.
This £1,000, right, that they've given everybody, right, has been taken away. Like, it was the equivalent of £20 a week, right? So, but they've
£20. Oh, the universal credit uplift
is only £10 a week.
Well, it's been taken away, hasn't it, by Sunak? Didn't he take it away again?
Yeah. What? No, you meant to have an increase, a natural increase, which was like
a natural, inflation going up with inflation. Yeah.
So that's like an extra £10 a week, right? But that £1,000.
Hooray!
Yeah, but that £1,000 you got for the last 2 years was equivalent to £20 a week.
Well, I think Duncan Smith started it. That one of his, as well as all the other attacks on the benefit system, one of them was to make sure that benefits would stay below inflation, so people would be deliberately get poorer. So the poor would be poor. So the desperately poor would be poorer.
Right.
See, the monetary equivalent of taking their tents away.
Yes. Yeah. Oh. Oh, this is a really nice government. It really loves people.
Kind, generous, loving.
Yeah.
But what surprises me is I think when they lose this next election, they look towards sort of like Trumpism, and they'll go full populism. And they'll suddenly all discover God and evangelism and that, and they'll suddenly they'll be giving up, science and logic and human rights and things like that, and they'll be talking about magical things.
All right, just before we go,
kind of feudalism.
Just before we go, have you been following Trump and what's happening in America at the moment?
I tell you what, I watched this hilarious video, right? There's an American comedian called Jimmy Kimmel, right? Okay. And this is this is quite light-hearted, but it's absolutely wonderful. And has an interview with Stormy Daniels, and it's like,
for real or
it's real?
Yeah.
It's, oh God, I won't say anything more, right? But you need to watch this. It's really great. But believe me, don't eat before you watch it.
So Trump is up in court because he paid Stormy Daniels some hush money.
Hush money. No, he paid it to his lawyer paid.
Right.
His lawyer went to jail for paying it.
Exactly.
Right? So his lawyer's guilty.
Right.
And then he paid the lawyer.
Go on.
And the lawyer is standing against him. Michael Cohen is standing against him and saying, look, I went to jail on your behalf, right? You paid me you're saying you didn't pay the money which I paid your mistress.
All right. The ex-president is not in court because of the payment. He's in court because where the money came from, right, was falsely accounted for. It came out of a business. No, hang on. It didn't come out of business. Where did it come from? Anyway, he tried to disguise it as a business payment.
Yeah.
When this is not a business payment.
Well, maybe through embarrassment. But you see, if he wanted me to be this great moralist, then of course it doesn't look good that you've committed adultery with a porn star. So that's
morally
embarrassing.
Yeah, that morally.
And it doesn't look good to the Christian fundamentalists who think that you are going to walk on water for them.
Are you sure? I don't know how these Christian fundamentalists operate.
They work in mysterious ways. They think in mysterious ways. If they do, they look. Have you seen any YouTube videos about like TYT talking to Trump supporters? Right?
Oh, it'd be a waste of time for me.
Wow, but it's just hilarious. But believe me, it's entertaining.
Because their mind is so set in a certain way.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, look. If we went back to the 6th or 7th or 8th century, we went back to that time, we'd find people that believe in all sorts of things, and you know they.
And was it Anon? Was it?
And
what was that one called?
Well, there's still although it's illegal, there's a small village in southeastern Ghana, and maybe elsewhere as well, right? With some, I think it's the Vodum belief system, right? And they are basically women. They're called the Trakosi, sex slaves.
Okay.
And in some of the other villages, they've had things that have befallen them, like they've had disasters that have befallen them, sicknesses, famine, what have you. So they choose the one of their daughters and send it off to the shrine, and that woman works for free as a literally slave or sex slave. It's officially forbidden now, but I think only in the 1970s. But you know, and so I'm not criticising this one place. I'm just saying that this way of thinking, way of thinking, still informs a lot of mystical way of thinking.
Yeah.
Including secular mysticism. You know, this mystical way of thinking, the blame, right? There's a disaster, there's the blame, and being in a patriarchal society, it's usually women that have. So somehow magically, these women, right, are blamed. In fact, I want to read for you a little poem, right, that I wrote a couple of years ago for International Women's Day.
Okay.
I've got it with me, funny enough.
Okay.
And I think it's entertaining, but there we are.
Okay,
here we go, right.
So Trump in America and his supporters, which is the equivalent to the Brexit supporters over here.
Exactly.
You know, and I've got a new one, the Rwanda supporters. You know, and
Rwanda supporters.
I could hear everybody saying it's not going to have any effect, but yet they're going off the end of the cliff.
No, it's not. It's the idea is deportation is like scapegoating. In the Bible, in the Old Testament, a goat, right, was a goat or goats were chosen. A random goat was chosen, and the sins of the village was put on the goat, and the goat was chased into the thing. And so we got the name scapegoating. Okay. Anyway, so let me start my little poem. I think I wrote it in 2012 for International Women's Day. I didn't.
Okay. Wow.
I didn't sort of, you know, I didn't show it to anybody. I just kept it to myself. Here we go. Here we go. Right. The Holocaust of Women. In the bright, sparkling town of Oxford, there was a monastery where the elders sang with the beauty and innocence of goats. Yet outside of Oxford, in the Cotswold hamlet, were small farms where sheep were bred for meat. One harsh winter, many of the sheep died mysteriously, and the head of the village declared that the devil had descended on them. One shepherd rode off quickly to Oxford's town and begged the monks to send the witch judges. As soon as the monks arrived, they prayed and went from farm to farm until they found one old woman with a cleft lip who was preparing a soup of nettles for her hungry grandchildren. The monks chased the old woman, who ran into a ring of mushrooms called a fairy ring. This was proof enough, so they put her into a ducking chair and dunked her like a chocolate biscuit in coffee in the cold water of the lake. Thrice she survived. So now they took her to a clearing in the forest where they prepared a large wooden stake, not the kind of steak that you might eat, another steak, a wooden stake, and placed it in the earth and started a fire with the wood. Now, and this is where I have communion with the spirits.
Nature.
With nature. All of a sudden, it started raining, which put the fire out. As if by a perverse magic, a streak of lightning came down and hit the witch judge's chainmail belt. He fell into a terminal slumber. The other two monks ran off back to the monastery, or in that general direction. The old woman then met her eldest daughter and went home. They all drank nettle soup and laughed as they watched a toy hanging from the wall, swinging like a pendulum. It was a stuffed monk.
And I'm gonna say goodbye from me.
And
Until next time.
goodbye from him.
All right. So we will see you folks next time.
Bye-bye.